People love to say the grass is greener on the other side, but that's only because distance allows you to ignore maintenance. When you're far away, you simply cannot see the weeds, the divots in the grass, all of the day that it did not get watered, all of the nights that somebody sat up trying to keep it alive. Envy is sneaky. It'll make you long for a life you were never prepared to sustain and convince you that wanting someone else's blessing is the same thing as being ready for their burden. But the truth is, most of the grass people covet would die in their hands in the morning. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to another episode of Everything is Onions, the podcast where we peel back the layers, tell the truth, and laugh through the lessons. I'm your favorite host with the most, Koko. And whether you've been rocking with me since day one or you're new and just tuned in, I'm glad you're here. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe so we can keep building this space together. So let's get into it because this has been tugging on my spirit since I heard the story. And honestly, it needs its own space. Now, we all know how the internet get. One story blows up, one situation goes viral, and suddenly everybody is creating think pieces on every social media possible, giving their own 2 cents and acting like they did the investigation personally. Okay, like they were the court reporter. Shout out to Cherish on TikTok. But the recent situation that has been all over TikTok with Renee, Tim, Akira, and Devin, that is an interesting ass story, to say the least. A story that currently has ended in a trial and a $1.75 million verdict. Okay. That really made me sit back in my seat and think about the bigger picture, the bigger onion, something deeper, something that a lot of folks do not like to talk about. Again, so many surface level conversations. Oh, she's wrong for sleeping with that girl's man. She was her friend. She was cool. Akira let that girl in her house. Tim is Devin's cousin. But I want to pivot. I want to peel a few layers back here. We got to talk about desire, delusion, about wanting what someone else has without understanding what it took to keep it. We're talking envy. We are talking fantasy. We're talking boundaries, identity, self-worth, validation, and everything in between. Because I got a lot to say. Situations like that do not come out of nowhere. They come from layers. They come from layers of insecurity, layers of comparison, layers of wanting to be chosen so bad that you stop choosing yourself. Okay. And that's what this episode is about. Not just the headlines, but the mindset behind those choices. So let's get into the first peel because this is where the story really starts. Not with the scandal, not with the mess, but the moment where Brene decided that another woman's life looked easier to step into rather than building her own. Let's just say it plain and simple. Let's call a spade a spade. Some people truly believe that they can walk into someone else's chapter without experiencing chapters 1 through 10. They want to jump to chapter 11. They didn't even read the table of contents. They didn't even read the syllabus. They didn't read anything, okay? They just skipped to the part that they liked. They want the pictures, they want the title, the stability, the attention, the lifestyle, the softness, the partnership, everything that they think that another woman has without ever asking that woman what she had to go through to build it, to have it, to keep it, to maintain it. And that right there is where envy starts plotting. Envy just doesn't start with, I want what she has. It starts with, I deserve what she has because I think she had it easy. But most of the time, she did not have it easy. Okay. She had disrespect. She had stress. She had lessons. She had responsibility. She had boundaries. She had work. She had work to do, sister. And people forget that part. They forget all the effort. They forget all the investment. Okay. Because marriage is an investment. They forget the nights spent praying, the relationship survived. They forget the sacrifices. Okay. They forget the therapy. They forget the setbacks. They forget the truth. Okay. They completely, that completely goes over a lot of people's heads. People seem to have short-term memory loss when it comes to those things. Envy only sees the outcome and never the process. And when you only see the outcome, you start romanticizing things you're not even built for. Because what's good for the goose is not good for the gander. Let me tell you something. The things people envy would flop in their care. Not because they're bad people, but because they never learned the maintenance. They did not read the prerequisites. They don't know the requirements that it takes to keep things afloat, okay? The upkeep. And some folks just don't envy, okay? They try to step directly into somebody else's assignment. That is where the destiny swapping conversation comes in to play, okay? Because the moment you try to take something that's not yours, a relationship, a lifestyle, a role, a commitment, you aren't just stepping into somebody's business. You're stepping into their lineage. I might be getting a little too deep for some of y'all, but anybody that was raised by elders, Caribbean families, Southern families, or folks who understand hoodoo, voodoo, Yoruba traditions, you already know what the hell I'm talking about. I'm not saying nothing too crazy. You know that you cannot take something that belongs to somebody else without paying for it somewhere. Everybody has a path, their own calling, their own purpose, protection. If you know, you know, but the ancestors do not play about certain people. They don't play about them. And when you try to force your way into someone else's life, their home, their relationship, their stability, you are not competing with the woman. You are actually competing with her spiritual backing. All right. Some people's ancestors were quite literally on the front line, and they still are. They do not play that shit about certain people. If you know, you know. But our lineage, our history, our ancestry, our ancestors who are heavily protected, make sure that their lineage is heavily protected. All right. Okay. And the people who do not know that, some people think that they're stepping into a relationship. No, ma'am. They're stepping into someone's generational assignment. And that is where chaos ensues. Hoodoo teaches that every blessing has a root. And if you don't know where the root came from, you don't got no business touching the fruit. Okay? If you ain't black, stay the fuck at the business. Bow, or whatever Mona Leo said. That's when things start to collapse in the hands of people who try to take things that are not theirs. They emotionally collapse. They financially collapse. They spiritually collapse. They socially collapse. And if you needed evidence, look at that $1.75 million that Brene owes Akira. That's not just a price, that's a lesson. And that's a hefty ass price for a man. That's a hefty price to call a man your husband. And I don't know a damn man who is unemployed that is worth damn near $2 million. Don't know, not a one. Trying to take what is not yours will always cost more than what you think. There is always interest accruing. And let me peel even deeper because it's easy to talk about envy and jealousy, but let's talk about the psychology behind this. A catchphrase that everybody loves to use and talk about is the term pick me. In my personal opinion, some people aren't pick me's. They've never been picked. And I say this with love. You know how I get down, but it's true. We love to talk about people who are pick me's, women and men, but we never really talk about the fact that some people have never actually had someone genuinely want them. They've never experienced a healthy relationship. They've never been treated with intention. They've never been chosen without desperation or convenience attached to it. Some people have never had a boyfriend. They've never had a girlfriend. And I know that that sounds so simple to someone who has been picked, to someone who is deemed as conventionally attractive or handsome or athletic or charismatic, whatever word you would like to use, but we never stop to consider sometimes these experiences, a relationship, a boyfriend, somebody showing somebody attention, the first time that that happens, it feels like a miracle. It feels like when Charlie won the damn golden ticket. It feels like a miracle. And that is where the chaos and confusion starts, right there. The moment that you feel something that you haven't felt before, it's like when people take a hit of the good stuff. If you've ever heard addicts talk about the first time they hit the good stuff and chasing that feeling every time but never getting it. That is what I mean. This is not because they are villains. It's not just because they're heartless, but think about it like they're starved. They're starved for attention. They are starved for validation. They're starved for finally being seen. When you're starved, you'll eat anything, even the scraps. Let's be fucking for real. And I'm not just talking about, oh, I haven't ate in a day or two. No, I'm talking about you haven't eaten 2 weeks. Your stomach is touching your back. Yes, my friend, you will eat the scraps. Messing with somebody else's man or partner does not make you chosen. It makes you available. And availability is not valued. Things that are easily accessible are not valued. If they are easy for anyone to attain, it is not as valuable. Think about shoes or cars, a 24 karat little boo boo, that value goes up. If everybody can have it, it's not worth too much. But again, when you've never been picked, you can't tell the difference. It is very hard to see the other side when you don't even know what the hell you're looking at right now. You start fighting over scraps. You start competing over illusions. You start creating fantasies around people who barely like themselves, who barely like you. It's not love, it's emotional poverty. And let's go even deeper. Let's peel even deeper since we're already here. Once you get caught up in the fantasy, once you are attached to the attention, you get addicted to the validation. And before you know it, you are trying to win a competition that nobody wins. Because the gag is the person you're fighting for isn't even loyal to themselves. Cue in Tony Braxton, he wasn't man enough for me. He wasn't man enough for me. If he wasn't man enough for the person he built to life with, the person he married, why would he suddenly transform for you? Patterns do not reset. They do not change. They relocate. They find a new home for their bullshit. But folks do not want to hear that part. They get wrapped up in the idea of winning, winning the attention, winning the validation, winning the competition. But what's funny is the prize is not a partner, it's a trophy of pain. That's the piece that envy does not tell you. It does not highlight that. It does not let you know. It's in the fine print. It's in the terms and conditions stuff. And while we're already here, let's talk about what I said earlier about the grass looks greener mindset from an angle that nobody ever wants to admit to. A lot of people are not chasing love. They are chasing the appearance of love. They want the optics. They want the aesthetic, the Instagram ready version of a relationship. And the truth, the real kicker, the real gag, most people don't even want the person. They want the lifestyle the person looks like they can provide. Keyword looks like. They want the vacations, the matching pajamas, the good morning text, the air quotes soft life vibes, the stability, the public affection. They want to do it for the gram. They do not want the work, the compromise, the sacrifice, the accountability, not the healing that it took to get there. People want the finished product without ever considering the blueprint, what it took to get there, what it took to build this. And that's why social media is so dangerous because you will watch a 15-second clip and convince yourself that you know these people. You have a parasocial relationship. You think that this is your homegirl and your homeboy, your bro and your sis, and you don't know these people from a can of paint. You have not seen what this relationship looks like when they turn the cameras off. We romanticize strangers. We romanticize relationships we've never seen in person. We romanticize couples who can barely sit through dinner without checking each other's phones. But because the ambiance of Nobu is cute and they have designer clothes and bags and jewelry and Van Cleef bracelets and some beautiful song playing in the background, your brain says, oh my God, look at love. That's what love is. No, babe, that's what editing is. We are seeing a edited version of everything. Envy will have you idolizing a highlight reel and comparing it to your raw footage. And you convince yourself that you're losing when you don't even know what game you're watching. You don't even know the rules. You don't even know the rules. And the craziest part is you're not really jealous of their relationship. You're jealous of the presentation. And that's a dangerous place to live because if you fall in love with the illusion, you will ignore every single sign that the reality is rotten. It's rotten to the core. Now let's peel even deeper. The part where envy turns into self-abandonment. Because the moment you want a life that is not yours, you start shrinking the life that is yours. Before you ever disrespect someone else's relationship, before you ever step into something messy, you abandon yourself first, boo. Self abandonment is quiet, it's subtle, it sneaks up on you. It's when you start to tell yourself, oh, it's not that bad, girl. I don't want to be dramatic. I'm probably overthinking. Maybe I'm doing too much. Or even being shady with your own friends. Well, at least he talked to me. Like that scene in Baby Boy. At least he ain't knocking my head between the washer and dryer. How your homegirl catching it straight because she telling you the truth? Damn. Everybody got their own cross to bear, but we talking about you right now. Self-abandonment will literally have you calling red flags a misunderstanding. It will have you convincing yourself that you are the exception in a situation full of evidence you are not. You think you are the exception to the rule. It makes you ignore your intuition, your gut feeling. You ignore the disrespect. You ignore your discomfort. You ignore reality, all because the validation feels like a safe space to you. It feels comfortable. But listen to me when I say this. Love does not require you to disappear. Connections should not require you to shrink yourself. Affection should not ever cost you your dignity, your peace of mind. When you're operating from self-abandonment, you think that chaos is chemistry and your delusion is your destiny. And by the time you realize it, by the time it's too late, you morphed into somebody you don't even recognize anymore. You don't even know who you're looking at in the mirror. You'll be defending behavior you would have cussed your friend out for accepting. You'll be attached to someone who doesn't even care if you ate today. They didn't even ask you if you ate. That's exactly what happens when being chosen, being picked becomes more important than you choosing yourself. And that brings me to another layer, the boundaries layer, because the lack of boundaries is the reason that so many people end up in the deepest bullshit. A boundary is not, I don't like this, I don't like that. A boundary is, I don't stay where this happens. I don't date people that do this. A boundary is not a threat. It's not a warning. It's not an attitude. A boundary is a standard with a consequence attached, as opposed to a rule. A rule tries to control somebody else. A boundary controls you. A rule is don't disrespect me. Don't talk to me like this. Don't do this. A boundary says I'll remove myself if you do this. I don't date people who say this to me or treat me like this. You see the difference? A rule is going to create an argument. A boundary is going to create clarity. Rules get broken. Boundaries get upheld, sister. And a lot of people think that they have boundaries when they really just have preferences. I don't like that is a preference. I won't date you if blank happens is a boundary. Preferences get ignored. Boundaries get enforced. And before we move on to our last segment, No Tears, Just Truth, I want to end the messy middle with something to think about. Some of us are not losing men, contrary to popular belief and what people want women to think. We're actually losing ourselves trying to be chosen, trying to be picked. We're not fighting for love. We're fighting for validation. And a lot of women are not heartbroken because of what they did. They are heartbroken because of what they allowed, what they endured, all in the name of feeling wanted. The relationship did not break you, boo. The self-abandonment did. You crossed your own lines first. And until you admit that, you'll keep repeating the same cycle over and over and over again. Now let's take a breather because I've said a lot. And this is the part of the episode where I want to slow down and do some thinking. Let's do some reevaluating and let's get a little honest with ourselves and peel into no tears, just truths. If you've ever found yourself in a situation that made you question your worth, your judgment, your common sense, I want you to understand something. You can come back from it. Okay? You can come back from that. You can rebuild yourself. You can rebuild your voice. You can rebuild your confidence. And yes, my baby, you can rebuild your boundaries. Rebuilding boundaries isn't about becoming hard. It's about becoming whole. Rebuilding boundaries starts with telling yourself the truth, not the version that you told your friends, not what you s- put in a group chat, not the version you use to justify staying, but the truth that you try to avoid. Because once you tell yourself the truth, you stop letting your own excuses comfort you. You stop telling yourself it was not that bad when it was. You stop telling yourself, I can handle it when you in fact cannot. You stop telling yourself, maybe he'll change and realize that he will not. No tears, remember? Just truths. The next step in rebuilding your boundaries is practicing discomfort. If you avoid discomfort, you avoid healing. Healing is going to embarrass you. Healing makes you sit with choices you made when you were lonely, when you were desperate, when you were depressed, when you were sad. It'll make you realize you favored attention over your own safety. It will make you see how long you tolerated what didn't deserve to have access to you in the first place. Healing forces you to admit you kept giving chances to people who would not even give you clarity. It's a hard truth, but it's a necessary one. Rebuilding your boundaries also means letting go of your old identity, your old self, because the version of you who accepted the bare minimum cannot survive in the same body as the version of you who finally is demanding what you deserve. You can't be healed and still keep the habits you learned in your wounded phase. You can't be whole and still talk to yourself like someone who feels broken. You cannot have boundaries and still make exceptions for people who do not respect you. There's a version of you waiting on the other side of this who does not chase, who does not beg, who doesn't over explain, who does not shrink, who does not settle, but you will not meet that version of yourself until you retire the old version of yourself that was built on survival instead of self worth. The hardest part about rebuilding boundaries is losing people you never thought you would lose. Because the moment you start abandoning your old self, you stop accepting people who benefited from your lack of boundaries. Some people only love the version of you who let everything slide, do the cha-cha slide in this bitch, who never asked questions, who tolerated their inconsistencies, who thought the bare minimum effort was affection. It was love. When you change, their access to you changes. And people don't like losing access, especially access that they did not deserve in the first place. Because what we fail to realize is somebody knows when they're out your league. Somebody knows when you have a good heart. Somebody knows when you are easily manipulated or green. People know that and they take advantage of it. That's when you start hearing people say, you acting different. You didn't change. Oh, you think you better than me? Yes. Yes. Actually, I do. I do. I am better now. I do think better now. I think better of myself. And if me thinking better of myself offends you, you were the problem the whole time, Bookie. Rebuilding boundaries also requires forgiveness, not for them, but for you. And people hear forgiveness and they don't like that word too much, but forgiveness is not saying you didn't hurt me. Forgiveness is saying, I'm not carrying this on my back. I'm not carrying this chip on my shoulder for the rest of my life. I'm letting it go. It's above me now. It's saying I'm releasing the version of me who accepted less than what I asked God for. It's for the times I stayed too long, believed too hard, trusted too quick, and loved myself too little. Forgiveness clears the air so boundaries can grow. It clears the room. And something you have to remember is you do not rebuild all of your boundaries overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. You rebuild them one decision at a time, one no at a time, one difficult conversation at a time, one moment of clarity at a time. Eventually, you'll wake up one day and realize you're not attracted to chaos anymore. You're not attracted to toxicity anymore. You don't like that. Your spirit doesn't respond to dysfunction anymore. Your nervous system isn't attracted to adrenaline anymore. Your peace stops feeling boring. Your self respect stops feeling uncomfortable. And love stops feeling like something you have to earn by overextending yourself. So let me leave you with one more truth before we go. You don't lose your power when someone doesn't choose you. You lose your power when you start believing that being chosen, being picked, is the only proof that you have any power. Your self-worth does not come from who wants you. It comes from who you refuse to stop being. Choose yourself first. Choose yourself loudly. Choose yourself consistently, because the moment you do, every situation you used to settle for stops looking like love and starts looking like the lesson it always was. And that, my dear, is how you break the cycle. All right, guys, that has been another episode of Everything is Onions, where we go deep, we get real, and we grow. I'm your new favorite host, just a girl with a mic and a million thoughts. And if you made it all the way to the end, you already know we're family and we locked in. Ain't no switching up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for peeling back all of these layers with me. And thank you for letting me be a part of your day. If this episode hit home for you, even a little bit, go ahead and like, share, comment, and subscribe. Talk to me. Tell me how you feel. Tell me what resonated with you this episode. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.